last video in this tutorial series on the new Hacker add-on from blendersensei.com, we talked about Hacker's awesome IntelliSense-powered autofill results in the text editor. So if I begin to type a letter such as B, we get options for the next thing to type. We can press enter. We get next set of options. We can either scroll up and down and press enter or use the mouse and just keep clicking on stuff that we want to figure out what we can do. And Hacker autofills everything possible to be done or selected here. But I did mention at the end of the video there were a few limitations to the implementation of IntelliSense autofill in the text editor. And I wanted to get into a bit of those in this video, as well as some of the ways we can work around this and maybe even make things more convenient for ourselves as a result. So if we come down here to the Blender Python console editor here, which is part of Hacker's default workspace, where we kind of combine the functionality of the system console editor and the info editor, which gives us feedback about operators and stuff we're using. But if we come down here, all right, so say we were to create a variable name that was weird, like fish, and say fish equals, say the active object, which would be, we can access with bpy.context.object. And I were to press enter. This has now been entered into the Python console. And the Python console understands that fish represents this now. So if I were to type fish and then dot and then press autocomplete, it would give me a list of available methods or functions or whatever within bpy.context.object, which it now thinks is fish. So this is not the case with the autofill results. So for instance, if I were to do the same thing, import bpy, and we were to say fish, and notice we do start getting some results back, but fish equals bpy.context.object. And then we type in fish dot. Notice there are no autofill results here. Okay, so we still have access to the same things if we begin from the root of the imported module, which is bpy, so bpy.context object, and I can just tap enter as soon as I want to select something. And then here are all the same things: active material, data, which for this particular object would be its mesh or whatever, so you get different, like axis vertices or something like that. However, it doesn't have the intelligence that this is that. Okay, the reason for that is for something simple like this that I have written in this text, it would be fine for Hacker to dynamically read every single line of text on the page and then process it to deliver the results. But the problem is when you get into much more complex files, like say the Hacker init file, and you got a lot more stuff going on, what happens is every time you press a keystroke, the entire program would have to be sent to the new IntelliSense results would have to be fetched, and it makes things extremely sluggish. So that's not a good system. So you may be asking, well, why can you do it in the console? It's kind of the same situation. So for instance, if we were to create a really simple setup here, like we'll create a function, we'll say def my cool function, and we'll say print pizza time. And then we'll just call the function my cool function. We could take something as, as complex as this, Control C, and we could paste it directly into the console, Control V, and then press enter. And hey, it works. It runs that function, which does nothing but print pizza time. However, if we were to take something much more complicated, such as this, and then paste it in here, notice we can't even paste it in there without things going to hell. It's because the console interpreter isn't meant to process this much stuff, this much complex stuff, and then spacing and things. Whereas I can run the script and it's fine. We don't get any issues if I just run the script. But once things get that advanced or complex, or a lot of times when you're coding, you'll have like stuff half done or little parts of things copied because you're not ready to execute the script. So for this reason, we can't do fish fish.data. Okay, I'm just gonna get rid of that. And I'm going to clear all here. Okay, so what Hacker does have the ability to do is to dynamically detect things that are imported, or semi-dynamically. As to refresh the content, you need to move your mouse away from the text editor. This keeps the autofill from ever slowing down any amount of typing. So one thing that was really important to me when designing this was you never are going to be slowed down from this thing working. So that's really important not to affect that. But if you look in the options, right click options, and under autofill, we have an option that says detect imports, says detect imported modules and add contents to autofill and text editor. So if we were to do something like import BPY and also the OS module, which is used a lot for cross-compatibility when you're dealing with files and stuff, for one add-on or program that's meant to work across Windows, Linux, Mac OS, etc. If I type in OS right now, we don't get any results. However, if I quickly move my mouse out, now we have instant access to the OS module. So os.path. What are things? Is dir, is file, check if a file path is a thing or whatever. Okay, so we can't do something like this and have Hacker dynamically understand what fish is, which is a crime against humanity, I know. However, combining the IntelliSense autofill results with your own custom library, you can do stuff like this. So ob equals, and as soon as we press that, we get this showing up here. So right now I have this autofill result set up to not include BPY, and that's because most of the time that I would set up a variable like this, it's because this would be inside a class or an operator, which automatically passes the context, which means you don't need to start it off with BPY dot. But if we wanted, we could add this to our custom library. I could press BPY dot. And to add things to your custom library in Hacker is extremely simple. You just highlight the line, right click, and then under, which is it? It's edit autofill, add selected to library. And I'll move my mouse out so it gets updated real quick. And now if I type ob equals, we have both options, which I should probably leave that one in there for the two different situations. I mean, it starts with the context one first anyway, so that's fine. Anyway, so the idea here is twofold. Number one, this is awesome for things that as an add-on developer, you are constantly writing, such as wm equals bpy.context.window-manager or context.window-manager, which I'll go ahead and add that. Let's see, add selected to library, and then gets updated. Wm equals, and then we get that option. So yeah, this is awesome for things that you are constantly writing, like either ob equals is a very common convention, or obj equals. So it's twofold. Number one, we don't have to write those things out over and over and over that we constantly write. We can just go as far as the equal sign and have Hacker remember this stuff for us, so we're not writing it over and over and over. And number two, the even more awesome part, is whatever you save to your custom library does get pushed to the autofill IntelliSense results. With or without this line here, because this is in my autofill library, which is saved internally, so you can turn off Blender, turn it back on a day later, and it'll still be there. We are able to access results like we were doing before, only with something less stupid like fish and something that makes more variable name like fish and something that makes more sense, such as ob or obj or whatever you want it to be. Data dot face mask, blah, blah, blah. You get the basic idea here. So by default, Hacker ships with a bunch of these terms already predefined, mostly like well-used conventions like ob equals or wm equals for context window manager. But you can edit this in bulk if you go down to edit autofill and click edit autofill library, and you get a little information up here about what's going on here. Okay, so anyway, you can see all the custom things that have been added here, but you can edit these in bulk or delete a bunch of them if you want to. And so the main thing to understand here is that the custom autofill library works on the convention of a variable storing some thing. So it's got to be a thing equals the whatever, and then that will feed into your text editor autofill results. It will also push those results to the IntelliSense results, allowing you to do the stuff that we were doing just now. And so another added benefit of this is that you don't actually need to have typed the thing out to get those results. Like say you just want to really quickly check something. So like, what are all the window manager things? What are all the window manager things that start with F? Oh, file select add. What does that do? Opens a file selector with an operator. And then so one of the default conventions in here is ops. So anytime you want to check every single operator in Blender when you're in the text editor, if you have Hacker installed, you just type ops dot, and you have access to all of Blender's operators, and you can read what they do and check them all out. And you can use Hacker's text autofill ability to just click from menu to menu to menu, and you can code without even typing or learn what stuff is. This is great for exploring things, really quickly learning what something is or accessing data. All right, so that's going to about do it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in Hacker, please check out the links in the description or just go to blendersensei.com/hacker to learn more about that. I think I covered all of the autofill features in this video and the last video in this short tutorial playlist series, but it's possible I missed something. If you want to learn more about it, just like I said, head over to blendersensei.com/hacker, and there's a manual there where you can go more in depth with this stuff. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.